The girl in the firestorm. The sky turned red. Dale Parker, a quiet farmer living alone near the edge of the desert, looked up from his field. Thunder rolled across the clear sky, but there were no clouds. Something strange was happening. Then he saw it, a bright light falling fast from the sky like a shooting star, but bigger. It screamed through the air and crashed into the dunes with a heavy boom. Dust rose in a giant cloud. The ground shook. Dale stared for a moment. Then he ran. He jumped into his old truck and drove toward the crash. It was foolish, maybe even dangerous, but something inside him said he had to go. He had seen meteors before, but nothing like this. When he reached the crash site, heat burned his skin. The sand around the impact hole was glass now, melted by the heat. In the center was a small dark pod, half buried in the sand. Steam hissed from its sides. Dale stepped closer. The pod cracked open with a hiss. Smoke poured out. Inside was a girl. She was young, maybe 20, and her skin glowed faintly like starlight. Her clothes were torn, strange, made of silver fabric he had never seen. Her eyes opened, bright blue, and filled with fear. "Help, please," she whispered in a voice that didn't sound human. Dale froze. The girl reached toward him, her hand shaking. In her palm was a small crystal, glowing like fire trapped in glass. "They're coming," she said. "Don't let them take it." Then she fainted. Dale looked around. There was no one else here, yet, but the air felt wrong, heavy, like the calm before a storm. Without thinking, he lifted the girl into his arms. She was light, too light, and her skin was cold. He carried her to his truck and drove back to his farmhouse. He laid her on his old couch and covered her with a blanket. She slept without moving, breathing softly. The crystal in her hand pulsed with light, like it was alive. Dale sat in a chair nearby, watching her. He had questions, too many, but no answers. A loud buzzing noise pulled him from his thoughts. Outside, black drones flew low over the desert, scanning. They were not from Earth's military. He knew that. Their shape was too strange, too smooth, like shadows with wings. They passed over his house without stopping. For now. He turned to the girl again. "Who are you?" he asked, though she couldn't hear. As the night came, she finally opened her eyes. "You shouldn't have helped me," she whispered. "Now they'll come for you too." Dale frowned. "Who?" "Those flying things. Voidborn," she said. "They destroyed my world. They followed me here." "Your world?" he asked. "You mean you're not human?" She smiled weakly. "I was once, maybe." Dale didn't understand, but he didn't press her. She was in pain. Her hands were shaking. "What's this?" he asked, pointing to the crystal. "It's a key," she said. "A weapon, but only someone pure can use it." "Pure?" Dale laughed. "Lady, I'm a farmer. I fix tractors and grow potatoes. I'm not a hero." "That's why it chose you." Her words confused him even more. She tried to sit up, but fell back with a gasp. "Don't move," Dale said. "You need rest." "No time," she said. "They're close." Suddenly, the crystal glowed brighter. An image filled the air above it. A burning planet, broken cities, and black ships flying in the sky. Dale stared. It looked like a nightmare. "This is what they did to my world," the girl said. "They will do the same to yours." He didn't know what to say. "You have to hide the crystal," she said. "If they get it, everything is lost." Dale nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll hide it. But you're not going anywhere until you heal." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Outside, thunder rolled again, but there were still no clouds. Late at night, Dale stood on his porch, staring at the stars. He didn't understand much, but he knew this: his quiet life was over. The girl, the crystal, the strange ships, it was all real. He looked up. A new star was in the sky, But it wasn't a star. It was moving, slow and dark. They were coming. The weapon he shouldn't have. Night turned to morning, but Dale hadn't slept. He sat in his small kitchen, holding a mug of cold coffee, staring at the crystal on the table. It pulsed gently, as if breathing. Every few seconds, it flashed blue, then red, then back to glowing orange. It made no sound, but Dale could feel something from it, like it was watching him. The girl, still weak, rested in the spare room. She hadn't spoken since the night before, only whispered warnings in her sleep. Sometimes she cried. Other times she called out names he didn't know. Outside, the desert wind howled. But something worse moved in the air. Drones. Invisible to the eye, but Dale could feel their presence, like the desert itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, a high-pitched whir broke the silence. He grabbed his shotgun and ran outside. He wasn't a soldier, but his instincts screamed danger. Near the edge of the field, just beyond the fence, a black sphere floated 3 feet off the ground. It had no wings, no lights, just smooth metal and a single red eye scanning left to right. Dale aimed his shotgun. Before he could fire, the crystal inside the house glowed bright, blinding white. The sphere turned sharply, sensing the surge. And then it exploded without a shot fired. Dale stood frozen. Smoke rose where the sphere had been. Inside, the crystal dimmed again. "It protected me," he muttered. Behind him, the girl had come out, leaning against the doorframe. She looked pale, barely standing. "They found us," she said. Dale looked at her. "What is this thing?" She walked forward and gently picked up the crystal. "This isn't a weapon, you understand. It's ancient and alive. It chooses its bearer. Only someone with no hunger for power can awaken it." He frowned. "So it chose me." She nodded slowly. "Yes, and now you can't run." Dale sighed. "I never asked for any of this." "None of us did," she said, then paused. "Do you want to see why it matters?" Before he could answer, the crystal floated from her hand into the air between them. Light burst out of it. Shapes, colors, visions. Not just pictures, but memories. Dale saw a planet. Her world. Once green and beautiful, now broken and burning. Children screaming. Towers falling. Shadows crawling across the sky like living nightmares. Then he saw her, younger, proud, wearing armor, leading people, fighting, crying, and finally, running, clutching the crystal as her city fell. Dale stepped back. "You were a leader, a princess, but that title means nothing now," she whispered. "What happened to your people?" "Gone," she said. "I'm the last." The crystal dimmed and fell gently back into Dale's hands. He stared at it. "So what do I do?" She gave him a long, searching look. "You decide if your world is worth saving." That evening, they opened the escape pod together. They had dragged it behind the farmhouse under a sheet of metal. Inside was what looked like a small chamber, glowing faintly. It reacted to the crystal instantly. Lights flicked on. Machines hummed to life. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a strange object. It looked like a sword, but had no blade. Only a long handle and a circle of light at the end. Alien symbols ran across its body, and it hummed like it was alive. Dale touched it. The moment he did, his mind filled with energy. The sword extended, pure light forming a glowing blade. His arm burned, but not from pain, from connection. The girl's eyes widened. "It answered you." Dale stepped back, the weapon still humming in his hand. "I don't know how to use this." "It will teach you," she said, "but only if your heart stays true. And if it doesn't, it will kill you." He blinked. "Great." She smiled weakly. "Welcome to the resistance." Later that night, as Dale practiced behind the house, swinging the strange blade through the air, a shadow watched from the hills. Not human. Its skin was black like oil. Its eyes burned red. Its mouth held no lips, only teeth. It didn't speak. It didn't move. It just watched. When Dale returned to the house, the creature disappeared into the dark. The next day, a government black van stopped outside Dale's gate. Two men in suits stepped out. Their voices were polite, but their eyes were cold. "We tracked an energy surge to this location," one said. "Do you know anything about it?" Dale smiled. "Nope. Just fixing tractors. Mind if we look around?" He shrugged. "You got a warrant?" They didn't. The men left, but Dale knew they'd be back. The girl stood behind the window curtain, watching silently. Her face was pale. "They're not your enemies," she said, "but if they take the weapon, they will become them." Dale nodded. "Then we keep it hidden." She looked up. "For now, yes, but soon, hiding won't be enough." Dale gripped the weapon tighter. He wasn't a soldier, not a warrior, just a man with a farm, and a past he didn't like to talk about. But now, he was the only thing standing between this world and something much worse. The Voidborn arrived. The air smelled like metal. Dale stood in the middle of his field just before sunrise. The sky looked wrong. Still dark, but not because of clouds. Something was above the earth, something massive. He held the weapon in his hand. It was quiet now. No light, no sound, like it was waiting. Behind him, the girl stepped out of the farmhouse. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. She looked up, and her lips trembled. "They're here," she whispered. Dale looked at her. "You're sure?" She nodded. "I can feel them. They're watching us already." Dale followed her gaze. Something passed across the stars, a shape that blocked the light. Too big to be a ship, too quiet to be from Earth. "How long before people notice?" he asked. "Soon, but it won't matter." News channels began to buzz by afternoon. Unknown object in low orbit. Possible satellite failure. Experts gave guesses, but no one had answers. Then came the silence. Phones stopped working in several cities. Planes were grounded. Electric lines blinked out like dying stars. And then something fell from the sky. Not a meteor, not a bomb. A ship, black as night, shaped like a blade, with red veins glowing across its hull. It landed in the Nevada desert, close to Dale's home. Not a single sound came from it. Not a message, not a warning. Only stillness. But from within, they stepped out. The Voidborn were not made of flesh. Not really. Their bodies were shadows shaped like men. Tall, thin, and smooth. No faces. No eyes. Only red cracks where a mouth should be, and claws where hands might be. Humans that saw them went mad or ran, but one walked calmly. The commander. He wore armor made of mirror-like metal. Every step he took burned the ground beneath him. He raised his hand, and a hologram floated above it. A face. Dale's. "Bring me the crystal bearer," he hissed in a language no one on Earth had ever heard before. Yet somehow, the world understood. At Dale's farm, silence returned. He and the girl sat together in the barn, away from windows, their voices low. "They won't stop," she said. "They don't make deals. They don't care about life. They only destroy and consume." "So what do they want now?" Dale asked. "To erase Earth, before your people can resist." Dale clenched his fists. "We're not fighters. We don't have space fleets or high-tech weapons. You have hearts," she said quietly. "You have something they fear, hope." He looked at her. "But is that enough?" With this, she held up the crystal. "Maybe." They went underground. An old missile silo from the Cold War sat a few miles away, forgotten and covered by sand. Dale had known about it since he was a kid, but never thought he'd step inside it. They used it as shelter. As soon as they entered, the walls glowed. Not from power, but from the weapon. The alien symbols on the walls lit up, reacting to the crystal. It wasn't just a missile silo anymore. It had been used once before, Long ago, by someone else. Maybe by the ancients who built the weapon. The girl's hands began to tremble. They were here too, she said. Long before us. Maybe humans are not the first. Dale touched a wall. It hummed softly. What is this place? A resting point. For chosen bearers. It knows your blood now. Dale stared at her. What if I don't want this? What if I just want to go back to farming? She looked sad. You still can. But there might not be a farm left when this ends. He looked away. Then back to her. Then teach me, he said, before it's too late. Later that night, a small town near the landing site, Pine River, went dark. No lights. No signals. No people. A black fog rolled in. And when it rolled back out, everything was gone. No buildings. No trees. Only dust. Satellite images caught the change. News anchors panicked. People began to evacuate cities. Governments couldn't hide it anymore. The Voidborn had arrived. Back in the silo, Dale tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. He saw dreams, visions, maybe from the weapon. In one dream, he stood on a burning earth, looking up as ships blocked the sky. The girl stood beside him, bleeding. The weapon was broken. Humanity was gone. Then, in another dream, he saw light. His hands glowed. People followed him. Behind him, the Voidborn screamed as light pushed them back into the stars. He woke up sweating. The girl sat beside him, watching. You saw it, didn't you? He nodded slowly. It felt real. It was. The weapon shows you both roads. The one you fear, and the one you must fight for. He took a deep breath. Then I choose to fight. The girl smiled for the first time. Good, because we don't have much time. She held up a tiny device, alien, silver, and blinking. They found us. Dale stood. Outside, the sand shifted. Shadows began to rise. The Voidborn were close, and Dale was no longer just a farmer. The first fight. The silence before the storm is always the loudest. Inside the old missile silo, Dale stood in the middle of a glowing circle. The walls hummed softly, responding to the alien weapon he now held. The girl, still weak but recovering, moved slowly around him, her eyes focused. Hold it steady, she said, pointing to his grip. Your hands must be calm. The weapon listens to your thoughts. Dale tried to breathe slower. The handle vibrated gently in his hand. And then, whoosh, a blade of light shot out from the hilt, forming a long sword that hummed like music. It feels alive, he said. Because it is, she replied. It's not just metal and light. It remembers every bearer before you. Dale swung it once, twice. It felt weightless and heavy at the same time. Suddenly, the weapon spoke. Not with words, but with feelings. A message filled his mind. They're here. Above ground, the desert cracked. The sky turned gray as black fog rolled over the hills. Shapes moved inside it, creatures of shadow and hunger. The Voidborn were near. One of them stood taller than the rest, wearing armor of smooth black stone. It carried no weapon. It didn't need one. Its voice echoed across the sand, though its mouth never moved. Bring us the crystal, it hissed. Bring us the last of her kind. No one replied. Then the creature raised its clawed hand, and the earth shook. Inside the silo, the girl clutched her chest. Her skin glowed faintly, but her legs were shaking. They're calling to me, she whispered. They want to pull me into the dark. Dale stood beside her. Then we'll stand in the light. She looked at him, surprised. For a moment, she forgot how tired she was. Then the door above shook. Boom! Dust fell from the ceiling. They were coming in. Dale ran up the metal stairs, heart pounding. The weapon pulsed in his grip. Each step felt heavier than the last. He had never fought a real battle in his life. Never held a sword. Never killed. But now, the world had changed. He reached the top, kicked open the hatch, and the wind hit him like a wall. Black fog swirled around the silo. Red eyes moved in the shadows. He could barely see, but he could feel them. Hundreds. And then one stepped forward. A Voidborn scout. Tall, faceless, silent. It moved like smoke, but its claws were real, sharp, dripping with black liquid. Dale held the sword up. The Voidborn attacked first. The first strike came fast, almost too fast to see. The creature leaped forward, claws aiming for his chest. But the weapon moved on its own, blocking the attack with a flash of light. Clang. The force knocked Dale back. He fell hard, dust in his mouth. The Voidborn hissed, preparing to strike again. Dale stood up, coughing. Okay, so that's how it's gonna be. This time, he charged. The blade of light sliced through the air, hitting the Voidborn across the chest. The creature screamed, a sound like metal twisting in fire, and stumbled back. Then it vanished into smoke. Dale looked around, breathing hard. Is it dead? The girl's voice came through his earpiece. No, it's regrouping. More are coming. Great. Suddenly, 3 more shadows appeared from the fog, circling him like wolves. The first leaped. He ducked and slashed. The blade cut through it like paper, and it dissolved into black mist. The second tried to strike from behind, but the weapon glowed, warning him. He spun, blocked, and kicked the creature down the hill. The third was smarter. It waited, and then struck his leg. Dale cried out, falling to one knee. Blood ran down his leg. The girl shouted in his ear, "Get back. You're hurt." "Not yet," he said through gritted teeth. He raised the sword and roared. Light burst from the weapon, a shockwave that knocked the Voidborn back in all directions. Even the fog seemed to burn away for a second. For the first time, Dale saw the battlefield clearly. Dozens of Voidborn, watching from the hills. And in the center stood the commander. Tall, terrifying, and smiling. Inside the silo, the girl tried to rise. "He's not ready," she said. "But if he falls now, everything ends." She reached for the crystal. It burned in her hands, but she didn't stop. "Please," she whispered, "help him." The crystal lit up, and above the surface, Dale's blade turned golden. The commander stepped forward. "You are not chosen," he said, voice shaking the ground. "You are nothing, just a human." Dale stood his ground. "Maybe," he said, "but I'm not afraid of you." The commander raised his hand. Black energy formed around it. A beam shot toward Dale, fast as lightning. Dale crossed the blade in front of him. Boom! The energy hit the sword and was absorbed. Light exploded from the blade, blasting the commander backward. The Voidborn shrieked and scattered. The fog cleared, and Dale stood alone in the center of the battlefield, glowing with light. The girl appeared beside him, limping but standing tall. She looked at him and whispered, "You were never just a farmer." He smiled, "And you were never just a stranger." For now, the Voidborn retreated. But the war was only beginning. Dale had won his first fight, but the hardest battles were still to come. Training for the impossible. The wind had stopped. For the first time in days, the desert was silent. No black fog, no machines, no voices in the sky. But Dale knew better. This was not peace. This was a pause. He sat on the edge of the old missile silo, looking at the stars. Above, the weapon rested across his lap, now quiet again. His leg was bandaged from the last fight. It still hurt when he walked. Behind him, the girl slowly climbed the stairs, carrying a strange bowl of glowing blue liquid. "Drink this," she said softly. "It will heal faster." Dale took the bowl and sipped. The taste was bitter, like metal and fire, but warmth spread through his chest. The pain in his legs started to fade. "Thanks," he said, looking at her. Her eyes were tired. Her hands shook slightly. "You're still weak," Dale said. You need more rest. We don't have time, she replied. The Voidborn are regrouping, and your world has days, maybe less. Then train me, Dale said. For real this time. No more guessing. No more fear. She nodded. Okay, we start now. The silo became their training ground. They cleared a space underground, moving old crates, cleaning ancient dust, waking up technology that hadn't been touched in 50 years. Holograms rose from the floors, forming glowing figures, voidborn shapes, twisted and terrifying. These were not real enemies, but programs designed by her ancestors to teach warriors how to fight. Dale stood in the middle of the circle, the weapon glowing in his hand. First rule, she said, standing beside the console, the weapon doesn't obey strength. It obeys balance. Balance. Body and mind. Anger makes it weak. Fear makes it dangerous. So what makes it strong? Hope. Dale raised an eyebrow. That's corny. She smiled. Maybe, but it works. The first simulation attacked. A tall figure rushed at him. Dale blocked, but his swing was wild. The weapon sparked and shut down, falling from his hand. Again, she said. Dale picked it up. Again, the figure attacked. Again, he failed. This continued for hours. Sometimes the weapon lit. Sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it burned his hand when he was too angry. Frustration grew. He slammed the weapon on the floor. This thing hates me. No, she said gently. It doesn't hate you. It's trying to understand you. He sat on the floor, sweating and tired. Maybe I'm not made for this. You are, she said, kneeling beside him. Do you know why the weapon chose you? He looked at her. Because you had a choice to run, but you stayed. You fought for someone you didn't know. That's what makes a bearer. He said nothing. Get up, Dale, she whispered. We're not done yet. Outside, the Voidborn were moving again. The commander stood on top of a dark tower that had risen from the sand like a claw. Red energy flowed beneath the ground, spreading like poison. One of his lieutenants bowed before him. We have located the human resistance, it said. Should we attack? No, the commander replied. Let them believe they have a chance. Why? Because hope is pain. The longer they hold it, the harder they fall. He raised his hand. A large sphere hovered above him, dark and pulsing. Inside it was a piece of the same crystal Dale now carried, but this one was twisted, corrupted. We will poison their skies next. Back in the silo, Dale's training continued. He learned to move with the weapon, not against it. He learned how to block not just with speed, but with silence in his mind. The girl watched him improve every day. His strikes became smoother, his energy more focused. Sometimes he would fail, but he no longer got angry. He laughed. He tried again. Their bond grew stronger. One night, as they sat by a small fire outside the silo, she looked up at him. You remind me of someone, she said. Who? My brother. Dale turned. You had a brother. She nodded. He was brave, kind, but the Voidborn broke him, turned him into a weapon. I couldn't save him. Her eyes filled with tears, and she turned away. Dale didn't speak. He just placed his hand over hers. You're not alone now, he said. The next day, an alert went off. A signal had been detected, not from Earth, but from the stars. The girl checked the device and gasped. They're going to attack Earth's capital, she said. 3 days from now. How do you know? This code, it's theirs. They're calling their fleet. Dale stood up. We have to warn someone. They won't believe you. Then I'll make them. He ran to the truck and drove for hours to a small broadcast station hidden in the desert. An old radio tower still stood, mostly unused. With her help, he used the crystal to boost the signal. The message they sent wasn't just a warning. It was proof. They sent images, audio, flight paths, and the message. This is not a drill. This is not a movie. Earth is under attack. We need to unite. Now. The world listened. Not all believed. Some called it fake. But others saw the truth. And across the globe, people began to prepare. Some built shelters. Some formed resistance groups. Others just held each other close and waited. Hope was returning. And that made the Voidborn furious. In the last scene of this part, Dale stood on a hill, watching the stars. He didn't feel like the same man anymore. Not a farmer, not a soldier. Something in between. The girl stood beside him, stronger now. Her silver eyes reflected the stars above. "We don't have much time," she said. He nodded. "Then let's make every second count." Earth's last stand, the sky had changed. Cities across the world looked up and saw it, a shadow bigger than the moon, moving slowly across the stars. It blocked sunlight, turned day into dusk, and then it stopped. People in every country paused. On rooftops, in streets, in fields and villages, everyone stared. It was not a satellite. It was a ship, and it wasn't alone. Behind the first, hundreds more drifted into orbit, sharp, silent, shaped like blades. They looked like black knives pressed against the sky, waiting to fall. Earth's final clock had started ticking. In a bunker deep under the Capitol, world leaders argued. "This is panic. We don't know if this is real. What more do you need? Look outside. We don't have weapons for this kind of war." The argument stopped when a voice came through the screen. Dale's voice, patched into every emergency line, every device, every soldier's comm. "This is Dale Parker," he said calmly. "I was just a farmer. I didn't believe it either. Not at first. But now, I've seen them. I've fought them. They're real, and they're not here to talk." He paused, then added, "But we can fight back, and we can win." He sent live images from the training silo, of the weapon, the alien girl, and the Voidborn that had already attacked. The world listened, and in that moment, people began to choose hope. Resistance forces began forming across countries. Not armies, not tanks, not high-tech jets, but people. Engineers welded scrap into armor. Scientists built signal jammers using old tech. Hackers connected old radio towers to create a global warning network. Even school kids collected food and water for shelters. Dale and the girl watched from their desert hilltop. "They're scared," he said. "Yes," she replied, "but they're not giving up." He looked at her. "Do you think we can really win?" She didn't answer right away. Then, "I don't know. But if we fall, it won't be because we didn't try." On the third day, the first ship entered the atmosphere. A low rumble spread across the globe, like thunder from the sky itself. Birds fled. Oceans trembled. Volcanoes shook awake. And in the middle of the desert, a black spear-shaped object pierced the ground. It wasn't a bomb. It was a gate. Through it, the Voidborn came, thousands of them, walking like shadows made of fire and smoke. Their bodies twisted, their eyes burning red. They didn't speak. They just marched. The commander stood at the front, his armor glowing with red light. In his hand, he held a staff forged from a corrupted crystal, the twin of the one Dale now carried. He raised it high, and the ground beneath the cities cracked. In the capital, buildings shook. The sky turned darker as smoke clouds poured out from the gates. Internet failed. Power grids collapsed. But instead of panic, something else happened. People ran toward shelters. Firefighters climbed buildings to rescue the trapped. Nurses stayed in hospitals, helping patients to safety. Farmers filled trucks with supplies for nearby towns. All of them, ordinary people doing something brave. The girl watched from a small outpost screen. She smiled, softly. "Your world is full of fighters," she whispered. Dale stood beside her, armor over his shoulders, the weapon pulsing in his hand. "We fight now," he said. They boarded a resistance dropship, an old cargo plane refitted with alien shielding using her technology. Inside, soldiers sat shoulder to shoulder. Young, old, men, women, humans. Dale looked at them and said only one thing. We don't fight because we're stronger. We fight because we remember what's worth saving. No one cheered. They didn't need to. They just nodded and strapped in. The ship landed near the edge of the capital. What they saw was worse than any nightmare. Streets were broken. People had vanished. The air shimmered with red smoke, and in the middle of it all was a black spire rising high like a needle into the sky. At the base of the spire, a pit of energy opened. It was a portal, growing bigger, pulsing with evil light. They're trying to bring the rest of their army through, the girl said. If we don't stop it now, Earth will be lost. Dale gripped the weapon tightly. Then we go in. They moved through the ruined streets. Every corner held danger. Small void-born scouts, black machines scanning for life. Tentacles of smoke that grabbed anything that moved. Dale fought like he had trained. He moved with the weapon, not against it. The blade danced in the air, slicing through shadows and light alike. Each step forward was harder, but he didn't stop. The girl stood beside him, her powers growing with every breath. Her eyes glowed silver now, her voice steady. Her energy shielded the resistance fighters, kept them alive longer. They'd reached the spire's base. Inside, the commander waited. The final battle began. Dale stepped into the spire. The inside was alive, walls pulsing with red light, voices whispering in his head, trying to break his mind. The commander stood above the portal, watching him. You carry a weapon you don't understand, he said. You hold a power you don't deserve. Maybe, Dale replied, but I'll still use it to stop you. The commander attacked. Light and shadow clashed. Pure crystal energy against corrupted power. The walls shook. The ground cracked. Resistance fighters outside watched the tower glow brighter with each strike. Dale fought with everything. He was not perfect. He was not fast. But he never backed down. And the weapon responded. A final blow struck Dale's chest. He flew across the chamber, hitting the floor hard. The blade dimmed. His vision blurred. He heard the girl scream. Then, her voice inside his mind. Don't give up. He opened his eyes and saw memories, his father's hands, his mother's laughter, the first time he planted seeds in the earth. He remembered why he was fighting. Not to kill, but to protect. He stood up slowly. The weapon rose with him, now shining brighter than ever before. The commander hesitated for the first time. And that's when Dale charged. The weapon of hope. The chamber burned with light and shadow. Inside the heart of the spire, Dale stood alone, face bruised, hands shaking, but eyes full of fire. The weapon floated in front of him, spinning slowly, glowing brighter than ever before. The void-born commander watched him from across the room. Red energy surged in his hands. His armor cracked, black smoke rising from his shoulders. You are not special, the commander hissed. Just a weak human, full of fear, full of doubt. Dale stepped forward. You're right. I am afraid, but I'm not alone. He gripped the weapon again, and it pulsed with golden light. Behind him, a shape appeared in the doorway. The girl. She walked slowly, wounded but standing, her silver eyes locked on the commander. You destroyed my world, she said, voice steady, but not my will. Together, they stood side by side. The last of her kind, the last hope of his kind. Outside the spire, the battle raged. Resistance fighters clashed with shadow creatures in the streets. People with nothing but courage held back enemies with homemade weapons and ancient will. In every corner of the globe, screens flickered to life, showing the fight. People watched, and people believed. Mothers held their children close. Elders prayed. Young ones cried and cheered. Humanity didn't run. It stood. Back inside, The final battle began. The commander raised his corrupted staff and sent a wave of dark power toward them. Dale leaped forward, swinging the blade of light. The blast struck his weapon, but the crystal absorbed it, shaking the chamber. Then the girl joined him, lifting both hands. A shield of silver wrapped around them, pushing back the dark. The commander screamed and charged. The ground cracked. Walls collapsed. Fire and light danced through the air like stars falling. Dale fought with everything he had, every swing of the weapon filled with memory. The smell of fresh soil, the feel of the sun on his face, the sound of wind across his fields. This was his power, not violence, life. The commander grabbed him and threw him across the chamber. Dale hit the wall hard. His ribs screamed in pain. He couldn't breathe. The weapon flickered. The girl rushed to him, placing her hands on his chest. "Don't leave me," she whispered. "Please." A tear slid down her cheek and touched the crystal. And then something happened. The weapon glowed brighter than ever. It floated between them, then split in two. Two blades. One flew into her hand, the other into his. She gasped. "It knows," she whispered. "It knows we fight best. Together." They stood. Two warriors. Two lights. Two hearts. The commander roared, raising both arms, pulling dark energy from the portal below. The portal swirled, ready to swallow the earth. "This world dies now," he shouted. "Not today," Dale said. Together, they charged. They moved as one. Blade met blade. Light met darkness. For every strike he landed, she shielded him. For every shadow she fought, he cleared a path. They weren't perfect. They weren't chosen by blood or royalty. But the weapon had seen inside their souls and found them worthy. In the final moment, Dale drove his blade into the commander's chest. The girl followed with hers. The two weapons merged. Pure light shot into the sky, straight through the spire, breaking it apart. The corrupted crystal in the commander's staff exploded. The portal screamed and began to collapse in on itself. The commander let out a final cry of rage. And then, nothing. The spire fell. The sky cleared. Around the world, the Voidborn vanished, like dust in the wind. Hours later, the battlefield was quiet. Dale opened his eyes. He was lying on the ground, face to the sky. The sun was rising. Real sunlight. Warm, golden, peaceful. He sat up slowly. Beside him, the girl lay still. He crawled to her side. "Hey," he whispered. "We did it. Open your eyes." She didn't move. "Come on," he said, voice cracking. "Don't leave now." He reached for her hand, cold. Then suddenly, a pulse. The weapon, now small and quiet, blinked once. Her fingers twitched. Her eyes opened. "You're loud," she whispered, smiling. Dale laughed through tears. "You're alive." "So are you," she replied. They sat there, surrounded by dust, broken stone, and glowing light. They had saved a world. Weeks passed. The girl's people, long hidden in the stars, began to return. They came in peace. They brought medicine, knowledge, seeds for healing Earth's broken places. Earth's nations, once divided, began to speak as one. The resistance didn't disappear, it became a symbol, a reminder. And Dale, he didn't go back to farming. Not yet. He became something else, a teacher. He helped others learn to fight, not with fear, but with courage. One day, he and the girl stood together, watching kids train with simple versions of the weapon. "You miss your farm?" she asked. "Every day," he said. "But this is good too." She nodded. "I still don't know what comes next." "Me neither," he said. "But whatever it is, we'll face it." Together, they walked into the light. Sometimes, the strongest people are not the loudest. They are the ones who stay when it's easier to run, who protect even when they're scared, who carry hope like a blade. and shine it into the dark. Dale was no chosen one. He was just a man who believed in something worth saving. And that was enough.